Assalamu alaikum and hello everyone. Today I want to take you on a journey into one of the most important but often overlooked questions in Islamic finance. How do we actually measure whether Islamic finance is fulfilling the Maqasid al-Shariah? We all know that the Islamic finance industry has grown massively over the last years, but growth alone doesn't tell us whether Islamic finance is truly creating the welfare, justice, dignity, and balanced prosperity that Sharia intends. And surprisingly, most of the metrics we have been using today don't actually measure that. This video draws from my research paper titled Beyond Ratios and Returns, Rethinking How We Measure Maqasid al-Shariah in Islamic Finance. So let's begin. Over the last few decades, Islamic finance has expanded across the world, from Malaysia to Saudi Arabia, Indonesia to Turkey. Billions of dollars flow through Sharia-compliant instruments every single day. But a critical question remains. Is it fulfilling the higher objectives of the Sharia, or what is known in Arabic as the Maqasid al-Shariah? The Maqasid al-Shariah, or the objective of the Sharia, is to aim to safeguard religion, life, intellect, family, and property. Yet most Islamic banks continue to measure success using conventional financial metrics like profitability, return on assets, and asset growth. But these metrics tell us almost nothing about whether Islamic finance is actually improving lives, enhancing justice, empowering families, or preserving human dignity. Many scholars have attempted to translate the Maqasid into measurable frameworks, such as the PMMS model, the Harmonized Maqasid Index, and country-specific indices in Malaysia, Indonesia, and Turkey. But here's the core issue. Most of these models rely heavily on disclosures rather than real, measurable welfare outcomes. For example, a bank may disclose that it donated to charity. It may report that it avoided riba. It may mention community initiatives. But none of these show whether the bank reduced poverty, increased financial inclusion, supported education, or strengthened families. And this is what I call the compliance proxy trap. Institutions measure compliance, not impact. They measure process, not transformation. We studied how several countries apply Maqasid-based performance frameworks. Here's what we found. Malaysia, strong in wealth preservation and governance driven by high levels of asset-backed financing and strong governance disclosures, weak in intellect and family development metrics, particularly in areas such as research funding, education initiatives, and family support programs. Indonesia, Maqasid scores are relatively low overall, only 25.5% of the potential maximum, while they performed reasonably well on life and wealth dimensions, largely due to the prominence of Islamic microfinance, zakat-linked programs, and SME financing. They consistently show weaknesses in intellect and religion indicators, especially in formalized educational programs, literacy initiatives, and ethical finance awareness. Turkey excels in wealth dimension due to strong financing portfolios and capital adequacy, but weak in intellect and family indicators. Pakistan, excellent in life and wealth dimensions due to extensive microfinance, outreach, and welfare-based programs, but weak in education and family indicators, especially in long-term research, educational initiatives, and structured family welfare support. Bangladesh shows that Islamic social finance institutions significantly outperform commercial Islamic banks in Maqasid achievement, particularly in life and wealth categories due to strong Qard al-Hasan, zakat management, and poverty alleviation initiatives, whereas both social and commercial Islamic institutions show weaknesses in intellect and family metrics, reflecting limited investment in human capital, education, and long-term community development. For Middle Eastern countries like Bahrain, Kuwait, Oman, Qatar, UAE, and Saudi Arabia, a common pattern emerges. While they display strong compliance and governance, welfare outcomes are weak, with weak intellect and family indicators. The global pattern is clear. Even in very advanced Islamic finance markets, Maqasid performance remains partial, inconsistent, and often superficial. So, what does all this tell us? So, here's some of the most critical insights from the research. 1. The current metrics measure compliance, not transformation. The avoidance of riba is important, but it is only the beginning, not the end of Sharia's aspirations. 2. Welfare outcomes are rarely measured. We measure donations, but not poverty reduction, CSR budgets, but not community well being. 3. Context matters. A Maqasid index in Malaysia cannot be copy-pasted to Bangladesh or Oman. 4. Ecosystem level impact is missing. Most frameworks ignore environmental sustainability, digital inclusion, and long-term societal well-being. To overcome these limitations, I propose a new approach to look at this: the Purpose Value Integration Model, or PVIM. This model shifts Islamic finance from compliance-based behavior to impact-driven transformation. It has 3 dimensions. 1. Governance. Does governance, strategy, and organizational culture reflect the Maqasid? Do staff incentives align with ethical outcomes? 2. Welfare outcomes. Does the institution measurably improve financial inclusion, human capital, family stability, or harm prevention? 3. Ecosystem impact. How does the institution contribute to things like environmental sustainability, community resilience, or equitable wealth distribution? These are indicators of real impact, not symbolic compliance. So, how do we bring this model to life? I propose 3 major recommendations. 1. Create a global Maqasid impact reporting standard, or the MIRS, which can be a unified framework that would define what must be measured, how, and why. This would reduce fragmentation and the so-called halal washing. 2. Adopt the PVIM as a new measurement paradigm. Institutions can customize weights but must report outcomes, not just processes. 3. Implement independent Maqasid audits. Just as we audit Sharia compliance, we should audit Maqasid performance. This closes the gap between intention and reality. So, if Islamic finance wants to remain authentic and relevant, it must evolve from being Sharia-compliant finance to being purpose-driven, welfare-enhancing finance. The Maqasid al-Shariah is not just a checklist, it is a vision for human flourishing. And measurement is not merely administrative, it shapes what institutions prioritize, what regulators incentivize, and what society expects from Islamic finance. The future of Islamic finance does not depend on how big it becomes, but on how beneficial it becomes. Measuring Maqasid achievement must therefore move beyond ratios and returns towards purpose, welfare, and ecosystem impact. If we can redesign how we measure the impact of Islamic finance properly, we can also redesign how Islamic finance behaves. And that has the potential to transform societies and not just balance sheets. Well, thank you for listening to me, and I hope you enjoyed the presentation.